letting yourself down and you're letting your family down and you know it. I get to go all over the nation and give talks about PTSD and trauma and anger and anxiety. And it's the same talk usually. I change it for the different venues that are needed, but I've done this talk so many times I don't need the PowerPoint. It's just there for everybody else. So I've done this talk quite a few times, and I get the opportunity to do it here locally where I'm at. And so my wife gets to go with me for the first time. She's never got to hear me do this talk. She knows what I do. She's been very supportive, but she's never actually got to hear me give this talk about trauma before. So she goes with me. I'm speaking at a symposium for emergency medical folks, and about halfway down, excited she's going to get to hear what I have to say, I get this harebrained idea of, why don't you say something about what it's like to live with somebody who's dealing with trauma or dealing with PTSD? Maybe that'll be good for this group. And she thought I could put a few words together. So we get there. I do half the speeches I normally do, and then I have her come up. And about 5 minutes later, she wraps up talking about what it's like to live with somebody that's dealing with trauma, dealing with anxiety, letting their emotions take over the room. And I thank her, and I turn back around to the PowerPoint so I can get started where I was. And I had no clue where I was. I had no clue what I'd left off with. Because just as I turned around, I'm thinking, man, what a dick she used to live with. Making her walk around on eggshells, making the kids scared of him like he was going to blow up all the time. And that's when I realized, she's talking about me. She's talking about me. What kind of grown-ass man lets his emotions overcome everything? What kind of grown-ass man who's a warrior outside the home lets his emotions run a train on him? What kind of grown-ass man who's a warrior outside the house lets emotions get in the way of his goals, emotions get in the way of his vision in the home? Well, I did. You can find in other videos exactly what started this downhill slide for me, but I was definitely on the downhill, and I was losing everything. I lost my career. I was losing my family. I lost sobriety, lost spirituality. I was just happy being the angry guy. Listen, I started to figure out, how did I get out of this? What did I have to do to get away from treating my family like this? I love my family. I've always loved them. I'd do anything for them. And that's the trick. I figured I would die for these people. I would die for my wife and my kids. But how about you frickin' live for them? Listen, folks, love is a verb. You can't just say, I love my family. They're number one. Give me a break. If you're not showing that love is a verb, if you're not showing them that you die for them, then you're not doing it. Knowledge without action is no knowledge at all. If you're letting your emotions get on top of you, if you're letting your emotions cause you to overreact, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, whether it's anxiety or guilt, remorse, disgust, whatever emotion you think you're dealing with, if you can't control it, you're not a man and you're not taking care of your family. So quit telling them that you love them. Because love is a verb. Love is actions. You have to take the steps to get on top of this. The only way to get on top of dealing with these irrational emotions and dealing with these irrational thoughts that cause you to overreact is to raise your baseline discipline. Listen, as a therapist, I thought for years that I was just supposed to sit in front of somebody one-on-one and talk to them. And I had lots of success doing so. And then I had a waiting list. And I had a longer waiting list. And while I'm thankful for that, I had to figure out, what can I do to see people faster? What can I do? Because this one-on-one stuff is working great, but it's not working fast enough. This one-on-one stuff is working great, but you need something in between the time. But all they taught us in graduate school is you sit there and you talk to somebody for an hour and you make them better. And it was going well, and it's still important for certain things. But the biggest trick to learning not to react like that is to raise your baseline discipline. When we face adversity, we will never rise to our goals. Like every man wants to be Denzel Washington or John Wick, flying through the air, shooting 2 guns while kicking the bad guy in the face. It's not realistic. We know that. Why? Because you don't just suddenly and magically rise to that goal when adversity hits. You will always fall to the strength of your system. You will not rise to your goal in adversity. You will fall to the strength of the system. What is your system? Back then, my system was getting up and going to work and pretending like that was enough. And then I come home angry from 15 years dealing with people on the side of the road who didn't care for me, angry for 15 years of seeing traumatic things. If you're one of those idiots that's made it this far into the video that thinks, well, you knew what you were signing up for when you got into law enforcement. When I was 21 years old, I didn't know I was signing up to see a 2-year-old who was raped by her dad so badly that it killed her. You think you knew that at 21? You dumbass. Go ahead and log off now. That's what trauma does to you. It makes you depressed. It makes you angry. Or at least that's what we were taught that it does. Guess who makes you depressed or angry or anxious? You do. You do that. Between the stimulus and the response is a space. And in that space is where you decide the interpretation of what that stimulus is. It is up to you to decide it. And I realize that may fall on some difficult things. I realize that may be very difficult to understand. And you can't just decide to do it. It takes training. It takes raising your baseline discipline so that it can raise your system so when an adversity hits, you know how low you go. You no longer file back into anger. You no longer make your family walk around on eggshells. You're letting your family down and you're letting yourself down, and you know it. Your vision must be non-negotiable. Your character must be non-negotiable. Your follow-through must be non-negotiable. If you're not there, you better get with me or find somebody else that knows how to straighten that out. That's why I created the Angry Viking mindset. It's not about sitting there one-on-one in front of somebody. It's about learning. It's about community accountability. You have to have accountability. It's about being able to learn things daily and talk to somebody like me or whoever that you connect with that knows what they're doing in this mindset area and in this therapy area so you can ask questions and get better. That's it. It's that simple. It's simple, but it's not easy. I won't promise you it's easy, but I will hold you accountable. I'll hold you accountable because I know the kind of person that you can be, and you're not there yet. You're watching this video because you're not there yet. You better find somebody to work with. You better stop letting your family down. You better stop letting yourself down. Join the Angry Viking Mindset Method and Squad, and we'll get you straightened out. I will hold you accountable. Listen, I went to all those therapists when I was at my worst. They just placated me to keep me as a client. I wanted them to empower me. They lied. They said they could help. They said they'd empower me. They said they'd help me change, and they lied. I won't let you down because it's not about placating you. It's about teaching you how to change. You're letting yourself down and you're letting your family down, and you know it.